Hi, everyone. We're here with Fletcher Wheaton, and we're going to be talking about the current state of the real estate market. Hi, Fletcher. How are you doing?
Pedro, what's up, man? Looking forward to letting everybody know what's going on right now.
What is this year looking like so far compared to last year? Is there anything surprising about how things are going right now?
Right now, if you go on a dollar for dollar basis, sales are down 35% across the board, and we're talking condos, homes, and land in all of Baja. So it's a pretty significant drop. It's basically one third, right? There's definitely different niches to every market, but overall, sales are down one third, and we're going to kind of dive into that and talk about specific markets there. So, why are sales down? For the past 2 years, me and a couple people have made our predictions public
Okay.
in basically December, January, what's going to happen. Um, Last year, I said it was going to be flat. This year, I said it was going to be flat. It's obviously down. We're in the summer right now, so we
Yeah.
still have 6 months to go. But there's a lot of factors. We just had elections in Mexico.
Hmm.
We have elections in the US, which is a big reason why people are, in my opinion, using a reason not to take action,
Yeah.
right? So you have the election for sure. Interest rates are still higher,
Yeah.
so when I talk about myself, a lot of my buyers are coming from the US, from Canada, higher interest rates, so they can either put that in a bond and get a return, or they're just less likely to invest here because of the environment, right? So that's definitely something else. Right now, too, we've seen the dollar gain a little strength to the peso,
Yeah.
but for a long time it was 20 to 1, and then it basically 17 to 1 became the norm. We've seen that jump up, which is a good thing
Hmm.
for foreigners that are buying here because their dollar goes further. So these are all factors that have kind of and then we get into supply and demand as
Yeah.
well. And we'll talk about that, the difference between what's happening in Cabo, what's happening in San Jose, and even getting to East Cape, Todos Santos, and then La Paz, and
Yeah.
kind of break those markets down too.
Yeah, and it shows that like the exchange rate can be right, the inventory can be there, but if there is something like the elections, even if everything else is going right, just one thing that worries them is going to prevent people from, they're going to look into it, but actually taking that next step and actually buying or selling they're going to stop right there.
Yeah, exactly. So depending on which way things go, you can see things
Hmm.
switch immediately. I mean, if you think back to the pandemic, like everybody was in fear, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, it just like the dam burst and it went like that. So I'm not going to make any predictions on that, but I do think the uncertainty of the election will be clear very soon.
So sales are lower than last year. What kind of market are we currently in?
Okay, so we'll break it down to like buyers and sellers markets, right?
Hmm.
So the absorption rate, if you have essentially, let's call it 6 to 7 months of inventory or less, that is going to be a seller's market. If you have 6 or 7 months more of inventory, that's going to be a buyer's market. I just checked yesterday, and in the Cabo quarter, which is really like the Tezal area, we're getting up, close to 18 months of absorption rate, right? So you could consider it 2 times to 3 times into a buyer's market. So
Yeah.
it's a great time to be able to negotiate. Um, Once again, it depends on the product, right? When you get especially to like a higher price point, a lot of times that's not the same market. But when you get into specifically Cabos and San Lucas, I think it's a great time to be a buyer because you have multiple options and you're starting to see sellers um, lower pricing too.
Yeah.
And what was happening is you had prices rising for so long that people would just put the next unit up like 3, 5% higher than the latest sale. And you were able to do that for a lot of years.
There's a lot of inventory. Prices are expected to start dropping. Have you noticed that the prices started dropping, or do you think we're not there yet?
No, so once again, it depends upon the market, I think. If you look at just price changes on the MLS
Hmm.
and you go look at it, like I did it for like a week once and it was like maybe 70 price changes and maybe 60 of those were price drops,
Yeah.
right? And once again, I think that's consistent in a certain area, like condos in San Lucas, right?
Yeah.
But if you start talking about oceanside homes in Palmilla,
Yeah.
you're not going to be having the same thing, right?
Have you seen a buyer's market like this before since you came to Cabo, started working in real estate?
I spoke to somebody yesterday, and it's definitely a more difficult market for agents, right? But this person was like, "Hey, I've been
Mhm.
here since basically 2010. This is
Yeah.
kind of like a normal market, right? Then everybody's used to the boom time
Yeah.
post pandemic, and this is just more of like a normal market, right? Um, so I think you go off pricing too. So yeah, I think right when after the pandemic, it was quote unquote a buyer's market because you had a lot of inventory, but you
Hmm.
also had pricing. So the same place that you're buying, let's say in Tezal, was maybe 300,000 then. Now it's 400,000. So price has a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah. So there are different areas in Cabo that where the market behaves very differently. Have you noticed a difference between like right now in Cabo to San Jose, maybe La Paz, East Cape?
Yeah, so if we focus on San Jose and Cabo, people are like, oh, the market's changed. Well, to be honest, in San Jose, the market really hasn't changed that
Yeah.
much. It's basically kind of flat. If you look at, I'm looking this for the San Jose corridor, average home for a price is 4.4 million. Um, San Jose to Cabo has had a 62% increase in homes that have sold. But when we kind of average this out, San Jose is basically the same as last year.
Hmm.
If you look at Cabo San Lucas, we're down 50, 60%,
Yeah.
you know, but that's also because you had so much, for example, on the Pacific side. The Pacific side is coming back to reality.
Hmm.
You have a lot of people that want San Lucas and San Jose, right? That's where you have like it feels like you're in the beach, but you also have the amenities of
Yeah.
a U.S. market, right? You go to these areas, they're starting to get packed, right? So people started going to East Cape or Todos Santos. The Pacific side just had a lot of money flow into it over the past couple of years. So now it's just basically it can't keep up at the same pace. So even though that sales look lower, they're a lot higher than they were, let's say 3 or 4 years ago.
Hmm.
So, but the Pacific side has come back down to reality a little bit. Still a great area. I think there's a lack of what I would say kind of turnkey places there.
Yeah.
There's still like a lot of land out there. A lot of people have to build. And then the East Cape is just something that's completely different, right? Um, East Cape is starting to see a lot more money flowing in, but once again, there's not really HOA communities out there.
Hmm.
So a lot of people are buying land and they have to build a home.
Yeah.
There's literally like zero condo inventory in the East Cape, which is interesting too. So I think these are things. You also have more infrastructure on the Pacific side. You have the 4 lane that goes all the way up to La Paz and kind of runs right there.
Yeah.
When you go to the East Cape, it's a lot of it's a dirt road. So if you just throw a dart somewhere on the East Cape, you're not going to have
Mhm.
infrastructure. You're not going to have roads. You're not going to have water. You're not going to have power.
Yeah, it's a very specific buyer, people who are looking at properties over there. Do you think they're going to continue to be apprehensive about looking at land over there, looking at houses over there because of the lack of infrastructure? Do you think it's reliable or is it still missing?
I think it's still missing a lot. A lot of people would say the East Cape's great, right?
Mhm.
And I would agree, but I've seen this firsthand where it was a buyer from Vancouver came down. He picked out the house. It had solar panels, off grid, water trucked in,
Yeah.
really nice ocean view, maybe let's call it 45 minutes from like a grocery store. And like he had it picked out. And 3 weeks later, the wife came to view it and she was like, "Are you kidding me?" It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can run like the blow dryer, like wash my clothes, like
Yeah.
where am I going to go out with my friends, what is she going to do, go surfing? So or if you want to go to the movies, it's just like these little things that people are accustomed to having, especially in an area like Cabo,
Hmm.
um, that it's just not there yet. And then you had Azula, which was a project by Carencia it's like a high-end HOA community, and they just basically, a lot of it was the dollar to the peso relationship, but they just didn't have enough demand
Yeah.
for that particular product for a higher price point to execute. So I think you need to, but we have a lot of, they've announced a road, a new highway that's going out there.
Hmm.
When that comes in, who knows? But I think when you start getting there, you're still quote unquote what I would call like a pioneer,
Hmm.
but the pricing is going up too. So East Cape, a lot of people that buy in the East Cape are buying land and then they're not immediately building,
Yeah.
right? So they're kind of ahead of the curve and they're waiting for it. They might flip that land later, or there's not that many options, so it's not a bad idea. Um, Especially with the dollar to peso now, maybe normalizing a little bit to build. La Paz is an interesting market. Um, First we talk about the MLS, and let's talk about how many sales are done off the MLS.
Hmm.
I would say that probably 20% of Baja is not showing up on the MLS.
Okay.
That's kind of what I've gathered from conversations with other people. I think in a market like La Paz, you have a lot more transactions happen that do not
Hmm.
come on the MLS. Um, but with that being said, La Paz is definitely starting to heat up. You have a lot more sales happening there. You have a lot more interest. And I think this is a function of a couple different things. One of them is Cabo's gotten more expensive, right?
Yeah.
So La Paz looks cheaper. Um, on top of that, I think it's a very authentic experience too, right? So a lot of people can get there, and you have I think very affordable
Hmm.
type housing and eating out and restaurants, right? I have a lot of people, and they're sitting in Kansas and they're browsing the MLS and
Yeah.
they're like, hey, look at this listing, and they've come to Cabo quite a bit, and they're like, I'm really interested in this listing in La Paz, and I ask them, I'm like, have you ever been to La Paz?
Hmm.
Because I remember somebody that was in Cabo actively looking, toured them around, and they did a day trip to La Paz, and like 2 days later, they came back. They're like, "Yeah, we're not interested in La Paz anymore." And it's just not necessarily the same market that you would
Hmm.
think, right? So it's if you're interested in one of those markets, like you really, just like the East Cape or Todos Santos, like you have to go
Yeah.
experience that and literally like stay there, get food, get service, and then you're gonna be like, "Hey, is this for me?"
Do you think more people are looking into La Paz, maybe people who are more familiar with La Paz, because the perception around Cabo has changed?
100%.
Hmm.
But here's the other thing too: is if you're going to La Paz right now, you're flying into the Cabo airport as
Hmm.
well. So you don't really, it is an international airport, but flights are very limited there. Um, so, like I said, when you get down into it and you're flying from, let's say, Kansas, like you
Hmm.
can get direct flights from a lot of these US markets into Cabo, but you're going to be flying into Cabo and then driving up to La Paz. But I do think a lot of people are looking there because there's a lot of people that have been waiting to buy
Yeah.
and they kind of missed, and then they look and they see the property that they were looking at that's now 25-30% more, and they have that like FOMO that they missed
Yeah.
out, and they're like, okay, well, where's the next market? It's like, okay, well, you can look at La Paz, it's just not going to be the same place that you're looking at in Cabo. So once again, I think you just have to uh, go there and visit it for yourself. Like
Hmm.
I just did a tour, we did a video in La Paz, and like the people that own the homes
Hmm.
they were just different people than if you did a tour here.
Yeah.
So it's just a different culture. And I think people just need to realize that. But La Paz is definitely on the up. You've got Balandra Beach, probably one of the nicest beaches in Mexico, if not the world. You got the Malecon. It's a little bit warmer in the summertime, but still an incredible place.
With the current state of the real estate market, it's important for both buyers and sellers to maintain realistic expectations. Currently, more for sellers because of the amount of supply there is. What do you think? Have you had an experience with, like, maybe a client that refuses to come down to earth about what they can expect when selling.
100%. So, let's say I'm thinking of a project in the Sunset area,
Mm,
and let's say it was late 2020, early 2021. You bought pre-construction there, and it was kind of hard to lose,
mm-hmm,
right? So these, let's say, this particular place, maybe it was 300,000, and it's probably complete furnished. You got 500,000, right? Um, I've come across sellers, and I think a lot of people have too,
mm,
um, where they're just looking for the agent that's going to pick the highest price point. So in this particular occasion, somebody wanted to price that particular property at 700,000.
yeah.
And it's like, hey, they're still factoring in the market
Mm-hmm,
that it used to be, and it's just not the market to be doing that, right? And then I think a lot of people do this. That's it's like, hey, are you saying this? You wouldn't list this for 700,000. I'm saying I wouldn't. You'll probably find somebody that will do
yeah.
it. And then those just sit on the market for a long time, and that in turn also, I guess, makes the market look bad too, because it's going to sit on the market and people are saying
Mm-hmm.
properties are sitting on the market. But you're starting to see people get more realistic with their pricing.
Yeah, and there's also like a domino effect of people are going to look at the way something's being listed and the price they're listing it for and say, oh, then I'm going to make my decisions based on that. And then someone else is going to look at that. And it can really affect like the way people price their properties. And yeah, you can say that there's always going to be someone who's willing to list it for what the client wants, but it's just like when someone just wants something to list it, not really sell it.
Yeah, and look, we have a lot of data, especially in like the Cabo area. This is something different, like in Todos Santos or in the East Cape too. It's less efficient markets. You don't have as many transactions.
Hmm.
But if you're listing a condo in Cabo, you can pull up closed data for,
Yeah.
you know, if not there, then comps all around it, right? And you get a very good idea
Hmm.
when they closed, what they paid for it. So you can sit there and show the seller, whereas on the Pacific side, it's like, hey, can you justify this price? And you have maybe two or three data points that you can pull from
Hmm.
versus, 60. So it's a much more efficient market. And if somebody's asking you to list an overpriced property like that, just show them data
Hmm.
and be like, can you explain to me why? And they'll usually still come back, oh, my unit's the best. I have,
Yeah.
Gucci furniture, and, I
Hmm.
got the best rooftop and all this stuff. And it's like, let's just get realistic. Also, another thing with inventory is, I think there's about 2,000 listings on the MLS right now.
Hmm.
Um, and that's been up 14%. So you are starting to see more listings. So it's a
Yeah.
component of a hotter market. A lot of people here are investors, so they might have bought pre-construction at the beginning of the pandemic, got a good price, they've seen it go up. We were using this as a rental property anyway, why don't we sell? So I think you're going to continue to see listings increase,
Hmm.
and we've had listings are up 14% year over year. So I think that's something to keep an eye on too, just to see how many listings there are.
Do you think that because there's a lot of inventory and it's a buyer's market, you could say it's a great opportunity for people to start looking into buying, but it also sort of raises a red flag to them about why is there so much and why are prices starting to drop? Is this reliable or so it can look good or it can look bad depending on who you're asking.
Yeah, and you just made me think of something. Let's take Tezol.
Hmm.
All right. A lot of people say Tezol is overbuilt. There's too much inventory. And to a certain extent, they are correct right now.
Hmm.
But I was speaking to another broker, and it's, where else are you going to go in Cabo?
Yeah.
Like, on the other side, by the way, there's pockets to Tezol, right? So let's just say
Yeah, it's become
Corridor,
its
like
own.
Tezol East.
Yeah.
And when you go past that, then it's Cabo del Sol. So now you're starting to talk about, I mean, millions,
Yeah.
right? And then when you get out of Tezol, like where are you gonna like what's next? It's either like basically downtown, which is not for everybody, or
Yeah.
it's like Sunset, and that's just a completely different market. So I think right now, if a place like Tezol, you can basically pick and choose where you want to go and negotiate because there's listings,
Hmm.
and long term, as long as you're buying the right project, the right product for your fits, I think you really can't
Yeah.
miss because there's really not another place unless you're trying to go along the Pacific and buy land and build or whatever, or you want to be in a golf course community.
Yeah. And there's also like the variety, it's not the same property.
Developer, and I kind of told him this, and he's like, Fletcher, Tezol is not just one category.
Hmm.
There's different areas.
Yeah.
Like the Santa Carmela area, Tezol East is a lot different than where like the Cabo del Mar or when like the La Ventana or
Yeah. And
Las
price
Ventanas
points
is.
are like very different depending on which part of the cell you're looking at.
Yeah. So that's the market update for summer of 2024. We're basically down a third in sales. We've got elections coming up, higher interest rates, dollar to the peso relationship. So there's a lot of different factors, supply and demand. So we'll see where things go. But if anybody has any other questions about the market, just drop us a message and we'll get to it.
Yep. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, make sure to comment or private message Fletcher or myself.
Follow Pedro, okay?
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.